how the Germans were using them, the keys that they were using, was a whole different story.
And the Stecker was the add-on. One with the Steckers that came from Poland that has been turned into a sound. It's a standard method of doing it they use. This illustrated, get clearer. You can hear two different tones there. One tone is a 0, the other tone is a 1. Now, to start to try to decrypt this, we need basically to actually get a hard copy of it. Because only if we get a hard copy can we give it to cryptanalysts for them to try to decode it. And we can't get a hard copy by printing it out, because if we print it out, not all the characters in the international set number 2 print. Some of them are commands to the machine, for example, line feed, carriage return, space, etc., etc. So the fact that they've been encrypted will switch these around, so not every character will print. So what they had to do was to get a hard copy. They used printers that they did have on these machines here, called undulators, which printed that wavy line there. They had those machines, these printers on these machines, because they were used for printing out Morse code. So if you imagine the circumstance you might have in a listening station where you're short staffed, for example, because of sickness or something, therefore missing operators will print out the messages and do them later. Yeah? Also when you're training staff, you need to print the messages out so you can check the trainees' work and put them right and so on. So they have this hard copy. What they did was teach the women in those centres to actually read that and punch it into paper tape. Right? So they're looking at those wavy lines, and here are the examples of the things that women are looking for. That's a letter A, it's that pattern, and so on and so forth. Yeah? All the letters have a particular sign. So two different women would separately take a copy of the message and get a hard copy of it. And those two hard copies were sent here to Bletchley Park, to this section here. This section was called the Tunny section. Tunny is a sort of old-fashioned name for the tuna fish. We don't really know why they called it the Tunny section, except we think that the Germans used fish names for those machines as well. This one was called swordfish, I think. But the use of that sort of name was basically so that the name gave nothing away about what the section did. Or most of the names in Bletchley Park didn't give you any clue as to what the people were doing. They're either named after people or just fish or stuff like that. So 1940 onwards, they're starting to get these messages here on the paper tape. Now the reason they had two women doing it is that these messages tended to be rather noisy with a lot of interference. So you might get mistakes in it. So two separate women would do it, and then they compare their results. Right? That meant you could find areas that were dodgy and eliminate those areas in order to get stuff that you knew was good. Because what you're going to do to these messages is process them analytically and statistically to see if you can work out the actual settings. So the stuff being sent here to Bletchley Park in 1940. Until about April 1941, they didn't get anywhere really. But in April 1941, they had a breakthrough. Something I didn't mention before, but I mention now. Every message that was sent would have a code at the beginning of 12 characters long called an indicator. It's always 12, and they were pretty much always different for every message. So it was clear that these messages were being encrypted on a machine that had 12 somethings that had to be set the same at either end. But 12 watts they didn't know at the beginning. Anyway, this is the indicator that was at the beginning of the message in April 1941. It was sent from Athens to Vienna. My memory's getting worse. and it was about 4,000 characters long. At the end of it, the operator in Vienna said, sorry, you didn't get that, send it again. And the operator in Athens wasn't very happy about that. He said, well, I'll send it again, but I'm going to just use the same settings. And I'm just going to return the machine back to the same place. And so he sent it again. But he didn't send it identically. If he had actually sent it absolutely identically, you'd get the same result. He started to abbreviate it. He clearly wanted to get away, go to the pub or whatever. Right? And the second one was 400 characters shorter. But the listeners at Knockholt knew from what they'd heard in the intervening bit that wasn't encrypted, because these chats between the things would go through in clear. They knew that it was actually the same message or the same information. So when the stuff got here to Bletchley Park, Colonel John Tilton got both the messages, and on the assumption that the guy had used guesswork really, but that the man had used abbreviations to make one shorter than the other, standard abbreviations, he worked his way through both of the messages and effectively decrypted both. And he was able from that, here's an example of sort of abbreviations that the man used. First message started with the word German number Sprucknummer. The second message started with Spruck-NR. Okay, that gave him the key basically to go through the whole thing and decrypt it. Having done that, he worked out that this was actually a thing called the Vernon cipher. And where can I find the sheet of the Vernon cipher on it? Which I can't see the sheet of the Vernon cipher on it.